First, Team Spielberg brought back Animaniacs for Hulu, and now we've got a new version of Tiny Toons on Max. Let's talk about Tiny Toons Looniversity. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for Tiny Toons Looniversity. This is streaming season 1 on Max right now, and it has been commissioned for a second season. It actually, that was in the deal. It would be at least 2 seasons at the start. So we will be getting, at some point, a second season of this. But first, we're going to talk about season 1, which is on right now. But before we do that, let me welcome you to Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We do movie and TV reviews here on the channel, and a lot of animated reviews lately. I just reviewed the animated film Nimona. I reviewed Netflix's live-action version of One Piece, which has been getting some traction, and Krapopolis, which came out earlier this year, was one of my biggest videos of the year on the channel. So, love talking about the animated shows, and this one in particular, because I grew up with the original, of course. But please consider subscribing, click that like button, comment below, all that stuff, of course, helps the channel out. And just about every day, I post something new, so there's always a lot to check out here on the channel. All right, so Tiny Toons, of course, came out in the early 90s, so I was in, probably 7th or 8th grade when it came out, and then all through high school. It was a part of the, in my town anyway, the Fox affiliate had Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, and that was appointment viewing for me for a couple of years. I love the Animaniacs. I ended up getting the Animaniacs box set, as an adult here, and I really enjoyed the redo that they did on Hulu. Tiny Toons is a little bit different because they've changed some things. None of the original voice characters have come back, so it's a little bit different than the Animaniacs, overall. But I would say I was more into probably the Animaniacs than Tiny Toons when I was younger. But I think both shows, the original versions, still hold up. And I actually have an old Tiny Toon shirt somewhere. I couldn't find it. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got my Toon Squad shirt from the recent Space Jam. But my basement here isn't just for DVD displays. I have a whole host of nonsense in here. And I was able to find my original Tiny Toons backpack. This actually, I think, was maybe one of my younger siblings when I was a kid. But this is probably 25 plus years old. So I do have that. So yeah, I'm a fan, let's say, of of the Tiny Toons. So this new version on Max, Steven Spielberg still involved, on the producing side, whatever that means, really. Probably just lending his name to it. But, yeah, it's, I think, telling maybe that for Animaniacs, everybody came back, more or less. And here, nobody has returned. And I don't know this, the living or dead status of some of them, but, I know Cree Summer is certainly still alive. A lot of the people that then transferred to The Simpsons, they're still with us. So I don't know if maybe they weren't asked or whatever the story is. Now, obviously, the adult versions of the characters, these guys from Space Jam, they do have people that are voicing them these days. Obviously, Mel Blanc has long passed, but so the adults are here as well, but the focus, of course, is on the next generation versions of these characters as it was in the 90s. And while that was more of a gag-driven cartoon, this is more character-based, and that's why it's not just Tiny Toon Adventures, it is Tiny Toons Looniversity, because this is really, the focal point is taking place at the college where, they're going to learn to become the next generation of Looney Tunes, which, as a premise worked, I guess, 30 years ago, but at this point now we have, this should be really the kids of those kids, but whatever. The biggest change, though, well, I guess other than making it more character-driven and less sort of gag-driven, the biggest change is the characters of Babs and Buster Bunny. Because one of the running jokes in the original was, they would say their names, introduce themselves, and then say, no relation. But here, they've actually not only made them related, but, like, uber-related. They are twins that apparently have never even been apart from each other. So when they're faced with different dorms in the first episode. They're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We've never been apart. And that was not the case in the first one. I don't know that I love that change. And not all of the Tiny Toons characters have appeared yet. I was like looking at the backpack, and yeah, certainly a lot of them are here. Elmira is out, which is weird because she like had her own show with Pinky and the Brain for a while. She was very popular in the 90s. But a lot of these we haven't seen yet, but, you know, I've only done 3 episodes, so maybe there are more on the way. They've also changed some of the backgrounds of the characters, but look, these are cartoon characters. They're, you know, a bit more malleable, I think, than, for example, you know, characters in the Will and Grace reboot, you know. But even there, we've changed some of the storylines, right? So reboots will have that, but this just does not, for me, have the biting wit of the original. There are funny moments in this, but because it's less joke driven and more character driven, there are less gags, you know, per minute or whatever, and we're focusing more on, okay, let's talk about this character and let's see how they grow. Looney Tunes characters, you know, sort of by design are not really supposed to be growing. You know, their charm is, we know what we're getting with them. It's, you know, the same recycled jokes every time, and they work every time because they're so brilliant. You know, obviously the original Looney Tunes recycled a lot of gags over the years with different characters, and they always hit because they were so funny. But here, because we're you know, going to take a little bit more into the characters themselves, we've changed some of the characters a little bit. And the voice acting, look, it's fine. It does take a little bit of getting used to, because they are all completely different, whereas, you know, the new Animaniacs, like I said, everybody was the same. So it was essentially the same show, minus, you know, a few of the side characters. Here, I don't know. The voices are fine. They're not really my issue. But everything else I mentioned kind of is a bit of a sticking point. The show is still okay. But the new Animaniacs, I would say, is way better as a reboot or a continuation than this show is. So I don't know if they're going to tweak any of that stuff for season 2. The feedback from fans, I think, has not been great on this first season. From what I looked at. But for me, it was okay. But all the episodes are streaming right now on Max. I leave Tiny Toons Looniversity with a C+, right on that edge for me. I don't think I'll continue watching it, but it's not bad for recreating, you know, one of my childhood favorites. So I will leave it with that. All right, thank you for watching Dave Reviews It. We'll see you next time. Bye.